This was my project for last Sunday. The whole center portion of this cast iron fireplace grate had fallen apart, which puzzles me because wood fires only reach about 1100 degrees and cast iron doesn't melt until above 2000 degrees. But apparently there's something, if you heat and cool cast iron, it disintegrates. My first thought for repairing it was to take this piece of 3/16" mild steel and cut strips or bars from it using an angle grinder. But frankly, that process seemed tedious and ugly and noisy, and I decided to look into my collection of steel for alternatives. I have a collection of steel that I've accumulated over the years that I keep in my furnace room. And this is what the collection looks like. I guess the lighting is pretty terrible. I'll drag a piece out to show you. Okay, here's one of my favorite things to collect. It's what's often known as a Hollywood bed frame. I've collected them from the side of the road and carried them home, and this particular one I bought at a church yard sale. They're made out of usually 1 inch by 1 inch by 1/8 inch thick mild steel, which I have found to be very useful for all kinds of projects. For example, a while back I needed the table of my bandsaw to be exactly level with that workbench surface behind it. So I cut some of that 1 by 1 angle and welded it to the legs of the bandsaw support and raised the bandsaw up to the exact height I needed. It was quick and easy and cost me nothing. Once I salvaged what I think was a trundle bed, and in addition to the 1 by 1 angle, it also included what I'm going to call a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch angle and some 5/8 inch wide flat stock. And I ran across some of that in my scrap pile and decided to use that to repair the grate. When I first set up my workshop here, I used to bolt my mechanics vise to this far corner of my table saw outfeed table. There's 3 bolts, nuts, and washers required to have it really secure, and it was tedious. And then I stole this idea from my friend John Willie's workshop. Just like that, I've got a mechanics vise set up. This small angle turns out to fit over the ends of the grate bars very nicely. So the next step was just to cut out, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those bars 11 inches long. I've got to put in a plug for Harbor Freight cutoff discs. I used to use DeWalt, and they were close to $4 a piece. And I decided to try this 10-pack of Harbor Freight cutoff discs that were, I think, about $8. I had read reviews saying that they blew apart, and I took a chance on it anyway. And I think the story is that if you have the blade partway through a piece of steel and then twist the grinder, well, of course it's going to snap the blade and it's going to blow apart. But I've been using these blades now for a while, and I think they're just about as good as DeWalt. And maybe they don't last quite as long, but for the incredible savings, who cares? With all the steel bars cut, I needed to find a way to get them to stand up on their corner. And the idea I came up with was a row of blocks with mitered edges that would hold the steel exactly the way I wanted it. So I cut a series of these little blocks in my power miter saw. So here's the arrangement of mitered wood blocks lined up on my temporary welding table. And here are the steel angles, all aligned in the wooden blocks, all set up to have a flat bar welded across their middle to hold them in place. And here's what the welding process looked like. Takes a while for that thicker flat bar to heat up. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's now red hot and starting to melt. Okay, there we are, good weld. And here is a look at the finished product and how it fits onto the grate. There it is. I'm really happy with it. I can't resist one final plug for the usefulness of bed frames that you pick up by the curb. The bottom of my welding cart is bed frame. The side pieces are 1x1 angle. And as a matter of fact, even the wheels came from one of those bed frames. They're not the greatest wheels, the best wheels for a welding cart, but they were what I had, and son of a gun, they've worked really well.